guys, you've seen that video I'm putting out on the snowblower. I just got done snowblowing while I learned a lot on that first run of snowblowing right there that you guys just watched. And there's a lot of things I like about the snowblower for sure, and it can move a lot of snow. Once you understand where to set your shoes to start, you have to have a good base, a good icy base or snowy base so you don't pick up so much gravel. You gotta watch the wind, you gotta watch where you point your spout. And one major thing I noticed that I do not like at all about snow blowing, because I've never ran a 3-point hitch blower. I like everything pretty much, but I do not like that manual spout. Turning around and adjusting that spout, because you adjust it a lot for buildings, for vehicles, for your yard, pointing opposite sides of the driveway. I go, okay. I've used it once for an hour, this blower. I'm already tired of the manual crank when I'm on the tractor. I don't like it. So I went on YouTube and looked at a couple things. A lot of guys are using wiper motors, 12 volt DC wiper motors, and Amazon 12 volt DC motors with little 5 and 8 and 10 and 20 RPM gearboxes. Well, I got a winch here. I saw one guy use a winch, and I had a winch, but I don't have the tooling that he's got, of course. So I'm going to try and use the winch idea. And I'm going to try and use an electric 1,500 pound cheap Chinese 1,500, because I had it. I was using this in my other shop to hoist up deer and clean them. This was connected to the ceiling with a pulley system, and I could lift a deer right up and hang it and clean it. But anyway, so far no deer up here yet, but I haven't got serious yet. So I'm going to try this winch, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to drive this gear for that sprocket system over there. Sorry for that swing ring that's on there with the square holes in it on the blower. We just got to figure out how to get that sprocket back on there, driven by this winch. And that's what I'm working on right now, because I'll show you what you're up against right here, and it's not that difficult, I don't think. Because I don't have a lathe, I don't have a milling machine, and my good old days of heavy industry are over, so I can't just take this in on night shift and do some machining and do some repairing like I used to do. I used to have all that at my fingertips. And when I left work, I gave all that stuff up. So that's what you do, man. Life goes on. So now you really got to use your creativity on what you're going to do. So basically, have a look at this. What this is your basically carrier for the end of your drum. This is basically your carrying bushing for the end of your drum right here. We need this, and this is really your coupling, because that goes there. And then your winch couples to the drum to turn it via this planetary gear. And this planetary in turn goes inside here. If you look, it goes in there. There is your drive right there. So when that winch turns, it's turning that. And which in turn, that little planetary there, spline gear, is coupled right in there like so. And that there, people, is how you drive your winch. So we have to think about, we need that little planetary pinion, whatever you want to call it, and we need to be able to couple this rotating, this is going to be rotating, and it's going to have to rotate this guy on the end like that. That's our goal. And that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm going to go from there, and I got to figure out, what am I going to do? I have some ideas. Because all I've got at my hand really up here is hand tools and a welder. So that's what I have in mind. So I'm gonna have to use some creativity and anyway, figure out how to drive this. So that's where I am. Okay, you guys, I went into my tap drawer. I pulled out 2 taps. The right hand tap is a national coarse, and the one on the left is national fine. Much finer thread, much coarser thread. Those are what you get in 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch 20, 1/2 inch 13. And we're going, I figure because this drum's aluminum, we're gonna tap that out to 1/2 13. Hopefully get as many threads as we can in there. So that's the difference between the 2 taps, is your threads per inch. So this could be a bit of a long shot, may not work, but you know what? Too bad. No risk, no reward. I ain't cranking no handle all winter long. And that's cast aluminum too, so. What we're gonna do now is try and cut a thread in there, and one thing you gotta try and do is cut that thread as straight as you can in here. And it's not like I'm sweating in here either. I got no heat, so that's not a problem. But I have to do everything with gloves. All right, so let's see where we go here. Okay, next thing. We got to go to 27/64 and drill that out. All right. We're going to cut a national fine thread in there, which I'm doing right now. I found the right drill bit. You're trying to get that in there as straight as you can. And theoretically, I probably don't even have to drill and tap this, but what drilling and tapping is going to do, it's going to give me the stability of having a bolt with no wobble in there, really. It's going to hold nice and tight in there. There it is. We're deadheaded. We bottomed out in the bottom of that hole, which is just fine. Okay, so what you have there, look inside, right there. You got a 1/2 inch national fine thread, and theoretically, that bolt should run right in there, man. Thread that bolt in there. And we may have to use some spacers or cut it off or whatever we got to do. All right, so now what's going to happen is that is going through there, which in turn is going to be coupled to here, nice and tight. Probably put some Loctite, and then we're going to put a roll pin through, and I'll show you. And we're going to clean this up though. Clean up that rusty spacer. All right, we'll clean that rusty washer. All right, so that washer's cleaned up. That's going to give us a clean weld surface too, that we're going to have to weld to. I got a cold finger there. I cut half that finger, the end of that finger right off in heavy industry a few years ago. Before I left work, I just happened to chop the end of my finger off. It's the only industrial accident I had my whole life. Sucks, but that's the way it is. So, all right, So I center drilled that out, and I coupled the drum to this big washer. When I tighten up this 1/2 inch National Fine bolt, we still have to be able to turn that drum, and there's just enough meat hanging through where I think we should be just actually pretty good. It'll be very close. Oh yeah. All right, so this is how it's going to work. That pinion, that spline gear is going to drive this drum. And that is now pinched with the big washer in there. There's some slop in there, perfect. There's just a bushing in the end anyway. So, this will in turn... Oh, I'll have to cut this off possibly and put the spring back in. Possibly. Yes, I will. Spring. Okay, I'll now have to cut this off shorter because I got the bolt coming in. This used to go right through the drum to the other end. And you would pull on this to release your spool to pull your wire rope off. Well, this is too long now because I got the bolt in too far into the drum. I got to cut this off. This length means nothing. We really don't need half of this. What we do need is we need the spring inside to keep constant pressure on this small pinion or planetary to push inside and keep it engaged with the motor at all times. We're not disengaging nothing on this, so we want a constant drive. So we can hack half of that off, no problem. And this spring in turn goes inside the drum and keeps that planetary pushed and gives us 100% engagement on this. And that's a reverse polarity motor too. And the good thing about a winch motor is I already got the wiring for forward and reverse, so we don't have to fool around with 2 different polarities. We're not going to do no wiring. And I don't have to order a gear reduction motor on Amazon, which I was going to do. And the switching, forget it, don't have to do any of that. This method here, I think, is going to work okay. The weak spot of this may possibly be, will this come unthreaded? I'm going to try and put a roll pin in there. We'll see what we can do. All right. So I shortened up this shaft for free spooling of the winch. We don't even really need this. I just shortened it up. So I put the spring inside the drum right there, and this in turn goes inside the drum. And now, with that spring in there, it keeps constant engagement. That planetary with the main drive spline. So that male is going to lock into this female spline, like so. Right there. That will give your positive drive all the time, no matter what happens. Right there. Right there now, it's locked. It's locked right into that motor. So, in turn, that will mount on the blower with a positive drive, and that gear will get welded to here. And that's how it's going to go. And hopefully things will work out. So, I see something I don't like. And of course, we're trying to make this run as true as we can too. All right, so here we go. This big boy drive sprocket right here, he's going to sit on here, centered. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tack weld, and I'm going to tack him around there in 4 different spots. And that will in turn make him completely coupled to this drum. And this drum is basically our drive coupling between the motor and the sprocket. So I'm going to weld him all the way around, tack him first, and then he's going to become part of this drum. And hopefully everything goes good. I can make a rotator chute for... it'd be nice to have a milling machine on a lathe, I can tell you that. But it's not the end of the world, man. We'll do... All right, we'll knock some paint off of this before I tack it in place. So what we're going to do now, we'll tack that on there. We'll track that drive sprocket onto that coupling slash hub. Call it what you will. Just burn a little bit of that moisture off these rods. That box has been open for a bit. And let's see where we go here. Okay. Okay, so now our sprocket that's going to drive that chute has become part of this drum, and we'll see where we go. Even if I'm off center a little bit on this, and we'll check it. Even if I was off center and I'm not too bad, a little bit on this, there's so much room in these big teeth to float and wobble around, just the way the handle was wobbling around before. It's not a big deal. You try and get it as accurate as you can. Do the best you can, that's all. The world's not going to come to an end, man. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's like anything. The nicer the job you do, the happier you are when you're done. Really. So I welded that hub all the way around. I welded that hub all the way around 70-18. Like I say, the speed is so slow, hopefully, and that chute is so well oiled and lubricated up there. I got that thing spinning so good that even when I was blowing snow, it was wandering a little bit. And I didn't want that to happen. I was kind of afraid. But if I was using a manual chute on there still, then I'd introduce some friction to that shaft so that couldn't turn. It's turning really nice, so. So I welded it all the way around, sprocket to that heavy washer. And I'm going to have to pin it, I guess. I'm going to have to drill through there and probably put a split pin through there to keep it from coming undone. Something I overlooked. I ended up welding this half-inch NF bolt. I welded it all the way around inside, so now this whole unit is one unit. So I can tighten it up, and then possibly, there's a set screw right here that I'll be able to lock onto these threads, which will help hold this in place from spinning. And if not, I'll go right through with a split pin. Back to the red Loctite. Okay, we put some red Loctite on there. And we'll put this back together again. She's windy out there today, man. There we go. Now that's nice and tight. Okay, so there's your drive, right there. As your electric winch motor turns, this thing, and there's lots of room in there. It's on a plastic bushing in there, and it's never going to run and get warm. It's only going to jog back and forth, so there's no issues there. We'll put our spring back in here that gives us constant tension. Right there. That keeps that gear pushed in there. And we'll try this again. This is only round one. There may be multiple revisions on this thing, I have no idea. But what I do know is I am not going outside and cranking that chute all the time by hand. It's uncomfortable and it's hard on your arm trying to weasel it through the roll bar and the toolbox. All right. I cut a piece of hollow structural right there, and I'm just kind of mocking it up a little bit. And I don't have nothing. I don't even know if I'm going to weld. I think I'm going to weld and drill and tap with some bolts. So there shouldn't be a lot of torque on this motor is what I'm saying. And the chute moves very freely. So I'll just see how I make out here. And that's how it's going to sit right there with the winch drive right there. And we'll see how we end up. I just got to get the engagement on that sprocket and on that driven sprocket here too. I want to make sure they engage nicely and not too hard, not too heavy, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm just kind of mocking up the height, and then I'll go from there. All right. I've been out here working this afternoon. I've got the pedestal on there. I got 2 3/8 bolts on that bottom angle iron on that pedestal. That should be all you need for that. Stainless steel 3/8 bolts. And then I've got drilled and tapped 3/8 bolts up here holding the winch on. And so there's 4 3/8 bolts on there and a welded iron angle iron bracket. So if you have a look in there, stitch welded across there, there should be no problem. And I kind of bolted it together instead of welding it to it in case I need to go back to the old hand crank for some reason. And when it's done, I'm going to bring it in the house and warm it up and paint it. I'm going to paint this green. And that's about it for that. It's pretty much mounted. It's ready to go. I got the clearance set on the sprocket. So that's where I am now. And I'm going to proceed with the winch wiring off that battery. And I'm going to give it a go and see how. I got some wiring hooked up. not be the fastest. But I don't have to get off the tractor. I just wired it up just now. Just threw some wiring on here. There's the remote. I'm going to have to mount that. And yeah, I'm going to go from there. I'm going to get the wiring. I got some loom on the floor. Some plastic loom for the wiring. I'm going to thread the wiring tomorrow. And I'll have to mount this up here somewhere. Whoop. I'm thinking that's going to be sweet somewhere right up in here somewhere. Maybe right here. Who knows? But I'll tell you, it's a hell of a lot better than getting off the tractor. Sweet. Like I said, it doesn't take much to rotate this. So, I think what I'll do now is I'll take it off and I will take it in the house, dry it out, warm it up, and then I'll paint it. All right, good morning, everybody. It's a chilly one here, northeastern Ontario, northeastern dirt and property maintenance. Mike here, if you guys are just tuning into this channel, but anyway, it's a cold one. We're into cold weather alerts. It's been sitting on us for a few days right now, and we probably got 3 or 4 inches of fresh snow. And I'm just cleaning up the shop this morning after retrofitting this blower, and I'll show you what I did yesterday on this, but I wanted to clean the shop up, man. It was like a major tripping hazard. Disorganized and dirty. So I'm just cleaning it up now. I'm putting everything back in its place. And then I'll show you what I did on that blower yesterday. It turned out slick. Overall, I was pretty happy. I'll show you what I did, why I did it briefly, and we'll go from there. Those sharp shards of metal from cutting, drilling, grinding, the little dogs come in here, they can get in their pads in between their toes, all those sharp cuttings from the drills and all that. So I like to keep it clean anyway, but I don't want those guys getting that stuff stuck in their paws. Okay, so here, as of right now, for the most part, is the finished result of that winch. And there's where we stand. I'll tell you what I'm going to change. But for the most part, I'm good to go if we get a snowstorm. I've got it wired in, I've got it loomed in, all the way to the front of the tractor battery. I got wrapped plastic loom around there. And I spent all day yesterday running that. So, there's your end result right there. I got a little bit of extra material on there because I might change something yet with the wiring. I just want to not cut off the surplus just yet. And here's what I'm changing. And I'll show you why I'm changing it. That cheesy flat 4-prong club. I don't like that. And that wasn't my goal. I'll show you what I was going to. All right. If you look, you can see this. I never really like these flat prong boat plugs, that's what they call them, and they're fine. It'll get you through a pinch like me, but here's really what I wanted, but I don't have the male half. This is what's going on there. These are better. These are die cast and 6-pin die cast with a lid, and this is really what you want to put on there. Something neat, tidy, and strong, and it will go. It's going to go up here somewhere on this rollover protection system right here with a bracket, and that will just allow me to plug in the blower power, unplug it, put it away for the season, and the 12-volt plug will always be there. And I'm going to have it on there, and I'm probably going to wire in a constant 12 here for whatever. Who knows for what? Maybe a reciprocating light for snow blowing on top of the wraps. I have no idea. But anyway, die cast plug's going to go on here, by far superior. by far superior than these cheesy flat plugs. But for now, I went to town and that's all they had because I do not have the male for this female. I got the female right there, 6-way female die cast, but I don't have the male, so I couldn't use it yesterday. And I wanted to get this thing prepped. So that's why I've got the cheesy plug on there for now. But when I go to North Bay, I will get the male half of that die cast and switch them over. So that's what I did yesterday. I got this loomed in, I got this wired in, and I'll show you what we got happening here. So, it runs underneath the tractor, along the floorboards, underneath everywhere, and it comes up here to your control. See, it comes up through here. And what I did was I used the winch remote. It's already got the reversing switch, reverse polarity motor, reversing switch here. That is wired 100% right into your battery with a fusible link in there. That's it. And all you do if you want to move your snowblower chute, not the fastest, but guess what? Perfect. I don't have to get off a tractor. I don't have to fool around. And so let me say this. Before I had that winch on this blower, I was reaching around trying to weasel my way underneath the ROPS and underneath the toolbox, trying to stretch way down here without getting off the tractor and cranking it right here. Like I said, that lasted for an hour. I had enough of that already. So I go, I'm going to deal with that. So anyway, that's what I did. And here you got your rocker switch. And all you do, that's it. And it's all wired in. That's the way it's going to go. And you know what? It sure beats reaching around having to try and crank a handle. So what's left to do? I'm going to put that die cast permanent plug in the back, and it'll make it neat and tidy too. And not a lot more to do really. As you guys can tell, I put the chains on the tires too while I was at it, and I put those on the other day. And you need those chains when you're pushing up that 700-foot driveway. You have to have them. In fact, I was blowing with the blower the other day, and I had this tractor in 4-wheel drive with chains going backwards. Of course, the blower got stuck on something, I think, and she started to break loose, even with the chains. But if that's a problem, what you do is you come to the top of the hill and you blow downhill. If it's going to be a problem, which I don't think it's going to be. Okay, oh yeah, and I have to take this off yet, and this is going in the house, and I'm going to paint that all up. And while I have it off, I'm going to box this in. I got the flat bar to box it in here and paint that pedestal. Just kind of make it look a little bit nicer. I'll probably end up painting the sprocket too and then oil it up. So anyway, that's it for the snowblower setup, and it works good. I'm happy with it for now, and I'll give it a go. But I'm going to have to try it a few times and just go from there. So there is the finished product of the snowblower. All I had was yellow paint, so that's what I ended up using, and I boxed it in, and it's now sitting outside. I boxed it in on both ends, and that's it. The snowblower is done. Painted up the drive sprocket on there for the rotary chute. That's it. Now, outside it sits. We had a major meltdown. Everything is ice. It went from Arctic temperatures to +7 to 9 degrees yesterday and 50-mile-an-hour winds. And now everything's frozen up this morning, -4 degrees, and it's solid ice everywhere. There was 2 inches of slush here last night, and it now has froze solid. So now it's just one big sheet of ice. So for now, the snowblower will sit there until we get some good snow, and thanks for tuning in.